This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. The roof of the South Stand at Starch Park is some 19 metres above the pitch, the same height as 11 Aidan Connolly's. But as we all know, there's only one Aidan Connolly, and so you'd be much better off with Dynamic Industrial Services. DIS specialise in working at height, offering a range of services including maintenance, inspection and repair. To find out more, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk.
Dictionary.com has the word irony sandwiched between Iroquoian and ironworks, and after last Sunday, you'd be unsurprised if certain members from KA postcode residents were asking if this could be updated. Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where tonight we're taking a look at Raith Rovers' third round SPFL Trust Trophy exit to Ayr United. I'm your host, Robbie Weir, and I'm delighted to be joined firstly by Leslie Maven. How are you getting on, Leslie?
While we were doing that intro, Robbie, statistically, over the last year, there was about a 20% chance Raith Rovers would have conceded 2 goals.
Let's save that for the chat later on. We've got a lot to focus on in this one. Callum, how are you getting on? Callum Blythe.
I have returned, I am still alive, and my bed is made. I am a new man.
I'm hearing that's only because you were on other podcasts, though, Callum. That's the thing.
No, that's got nothing to do with
First
that.
impressions count, eh?
Yeah,
Jeez,
exactly. No.
Of course, we couldn't do a podcast about Ayr United without talking to our resident Ayrshire expert. It's Mr. Graeme Meldrum. How are you doing, Graeme?
I'm doing really good. I've recovered. My hearing's recovered for all these aeroplanes that have been flying over my house the last 72 hours.
Jeez, oh. Now, of course, those who have the video coverage will be able to see that there's no Blair Hopcroft tonight, but he does send his regards to his fan club in Ayr, and it's all a good laugh, isn't it? Nobody took it too seriously, which is the most important point. So yeah, last Sunday, Challenge Cup game against Ayr United. It was Neil Collins' first match in charge. It was lined up initially with the 3-5-2. Kevin Dabrowski remaining in goals. We had a back three of Liam Dick, Paul Hanlon, and the uncharacteristic Ross Matthews in there, with Stevenson and Gibson playing as your wing backs there. We had Sean Byrne, Dylan Easton and Josh Mullen in midfield, and Callum Smith and Lewis Jamieson started up top for Rovers. Just to start with yourself, Graeme, Sean Byrne comes in to replace you and Murray there. Bit of a makeshift defence. What did you make of that when you first saw it?
Well, we actually stood on the terrace, which is behind one of the dugouts. One of the worst things Ayr United have ever done was close that north terrace to away supporters. That was probably the best vantage point for watching football in the league. So unfortunately, did that a few years ago, and now we're in this wee bit behind the terrace. I couldn't even make out what formation we were playing. I spent probably the first half hour before I realised Ross Matthews was actually playing as a third centre half. It looked very bizarre. I just thought he was sitting deep, and it was allowing Lewis Stevenson to come right up on the left-hand side. So that was very strange. I also looked as though we were playing a front three with Dylan Easton on the left, Jameson on the right and Smith through the middle. So that's what it looked like from the start. And the way we played at the start, you know, I think there was a lot of intricate passing, a lot of good movement down the left-hand side. And it actually surprises you the amount of good football we played down the left, that both our goals actually came for the right. So, very bizarre.
It was a tough one to get your head around when you first saw it. I gave up within about 30 seconds. I just put it in the group chat and I was like, someone figure this out for me, because I'm not the best with these sorts of things at the best of times. Leslie, were you quite surprised to see Ross Matthews filling in there at centre back, given the sort of situation? Did you think that we would have gone with a back four rather than the back three, given the personnel issues that we've got at centre back?
I was very surprised to see it, and to be honest, I was not happy. I was not happy right from the start to see it. And again, just to kind of caveat all this, I think Neil Collins gets a pass in this. He's effectively just in the door. He's had, 2-3 training sessions with the guys, if that. So he's coming in, he's working with what's there. But yeah, immediately the minute you see a midfielder in the centre of defence, it's got bad news written all over it. And we'll come back to this later. And I mean, Ross Matthews he's great as a right back. And again, it's not something I want us to make a habit of doing. And again, just to be fair, I mean, he started all right. He did start all right, although Blair was quite quick to pick up in the group chat. He says, "Look, you say that, but they're targeting him, and they were targeting him." So, from very early on, I think the word Blair used was they're avoiding Hanlon and Dick like the plague, and so everything was kind of going towards Matthews, which is, is inevitable, really. So, I was like yourself, trying to actually figure out what was going on took me a while. I was watching on Ayr's streaming service, but I had the Wraith TV commentary, and Ian Grieve and Davey Hancock had put in the chat, we've got a very attacking lineup this afternoon that's going to surprise some folk. They're lining up in a back three with Dick Hanlon and Matthews as a centre. And you're like, what? So I was surprised and not entirely happy with that from the off. But as I say, I think the manager gets a pass for this game on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where I think that given the personnel issues that we do have, I think that there's a degree of creativity there, which how much of it you can put into optimism, and sometimes you've got to give them a bit of leeway there. Callum, there were returns onto the bench for Rovers, so we saw Lewis Vaughan, Sam Stanton and Kieran Freeman all come back onto the bench. Did that give you a degree of sort of optimism that we're sort of hopefully maybe heading towards the end of this injury crisis, maybe getting a wee bit towards having a few more bodies available, getting a bit of a depth on the bench?
Yeah, that's definitely been the issue the past few weeks, where it is just a case of missing bodies, whether through injury or suspension in the case of Sean Byrne. So seeing those three back on the bench, or back in the squad anyway, is really encouraging. I believe in I think it was the pre-match that Neil Collins was saying about having bodies back in training at least. So hopefully they'll be fit for Gable Friday.
Yeah, I know that there's quite forensic questions going on about the likes of Jack Hamilton and Scott Brown at the moment, just given that we don't really see much in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. But again, I think it's one of those ones where if we don't know, it's absolutely fine so long as the opposition are less left second guessing. So we opened the first half, Graeme, very positive in the opening exchanges. Just if you want to run us up to the first goal and just how well we started that game initially.
Yeah, within 5 minutes I was well impressed. I've got a very small sample size this season. Wraith Rovers at Somerset Park, really my sample size. And for 50 minutes of the first game we were playing with 10 men, but we did more in the first 5 minutes, attacking wise and on the front foot on Sunday than we did in the 40 minutes with 11 players at Somerset Park earlier in the league. Very impressed. Very much a pressing. The front three, as I say, I think Easton was playing high up on the left, and the front three were definitely pressing Ayr United. Ayr United wanted to play the ball out for the back. When you've got jobber like Nick McAllister at the back, I don't think that's the game for you. But never mind, how that guy gets a wage in Scottish football, I'll never know. But hey, well, he does. He doesn't play for us, so should I really be bothered? Nah. But we looked on the front foot. The Lewis Stevenson on the left-hand side looked excellent. Everybody keeps saying it's Dad's army we've got, but boy, that boy can shift. He can shift. Some of the football between him and Easton was excellent down that left-hand side. I know that Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, some English Championship clubs are up looking at the right back for Ayr United. He never got a sniff first half because of the way those two boys were playing. And I thought we played really well on the front foot, very positive, and that's even before we got the goals. Just very, very positive. Quite happy with what Neil Collins had brought, where it was a little bit of urgency or whatever, but very, very happy, very positive, even before the goals.
Yeah, so the opening goal does come, and it's really, really well worked in terms of Lewis Gibson gets in to stop Paddy Redden getting away in terms of a sort of puts in a tackle. The ball gets to Lewis Jamieson, whose shot gets eventually turned in by Callum Smith as it's palmed out by Harry Stone. Lewis, just your thoughts on that goal, and again, just to echo sort of what Graham was saying about sort of the impressive pressing game that we initially started with.
We've already got 4 Lewises in the squad. We don't need a 5th, but I'll take that question anyway. I'm assuming it was coming in my direction. And to go back to the goal, I think I watched the highlights back, and what I'd missed first time was the lovely little flick from Paul Hanlon at the start just to get the move going. A lovely little flick, and it comes to, I think, is it to Mullen? It comes to somebody anyway, and it heads out. Great work down the right from Lewis Gibson. Gets into to Lewis Jameson, who gets a shot away, which is parried. Callum Smith, again, which I didn't see in real time, but I saw in the highlights, very nearly hits that straight off the post, but it does go in the end. But I love the bit of work, and again, it kind of vindicates what my hunch after the Livingston game, that the 3-5-2. We started with that against Livingston as well. And we looked really good with it, and you do just wonder if that was a seed that Neil Collins had planted before he'd arrived. Maybe try this out, see how it goes. But again, like the Livingston game, we started really well. Brilliant work from Lewis Gibson down the right. Good of Lewis Jameson to get the shot away. Okay, maybe it wasn't the strongest shot, but he's at least got the confidence to have a go from there, which is good. And Callum Smith with a very nice finish. So yeah, very, very positive start for us.
Yeah, I thought that overall, over the piece, Lewis Jameson had a really good game on Sunday. Did really well. Looked just very, very suited to what Neil Collins has been asking for, which seems to be quite an aggressive press. And he looks like the type of player that will do that all day. Just shades of like John Baird from back in the day in terms of just how willing he is to chase people down and harry them into mistakes. That first goal was very, very quickly followed by the second. The goalkeeper, Harry Stone, played out a short ball. Again, it was Reading that gets caught, and again, it's that man, Lewis Gibson, who manages to nip in, putting him under pressure to win the ball, and then it's a simple cutback to Dylan Easton, who's in acres of space. Callum, just what were your thoughts when you saw the second goal go in, and just how impressed were you by that start?
I wasn't at the game, so going in, my expectations were basically just a case of this is a free hit. It's Collins' first game in charge. It's a Challenge Cup, which yes, we do want to do well in, but if we get knocked out, it's not the end of the world. It's against an side that we've just been beaten off of in the league. So seeing us go 2-0 up really quite quickly, it was just like, what is this? I've not seen this from the Rovers for a good wee while now. But it's like, as you were saying, how it's like both the goals are coming from Lewis Gibson tackles, and that's good to see that he's got that side of the game to him. It's like him. He was playing at right wing back, wasn't he?
Mm. Yeah.
Which like it's like before the game, it's just like hearing that we're playing a back 5 with Gibson right wing back and then Ross Mappy's a centre back. You're just thinking, what? But clearly it seemed to work with Gibson at right wing back. So
yeah,
I think with that.
The irony is his dad was also, I'm sure, must have been playing right wing back for Annan, and he also got an assist this weekend. So good weekend for them, I guess. But yeah, continuing on into the rest of the first half, Ayr gradually managed to grow into the game. Kev managed to stop a sort of Paddy Redding shot that was at the edge of the box. And then really one of the defensive high points of the first half, Graham, talk us through that Paul Hanlon last-ditch interception.
I think I put in the group chat, I hope you've caught that in the highlights. That was outstanding. Yeah, outstanding. Long ball across. I think Oakley flicks it on. It's Hanlon and Dowds. Foot race. Dad's army at the back. What are they talking about? How did this youth, who's battered defences up and down the land, scoring goals by the bucket load, how did they let such an old man get round them and clear it, and then go down with a back? Maybe that's what he did. Maybe he pulled his back. Maybe the old man was too fast for him. But honestly, that was an outstanding piece of defending, outstanding tackle. Had to time it right. Did the boy Paul Hanlon is just absolutely class. Absolutely class. He's a cut above, and he's just. We're really lucky to have him. Thank you.
I think he's certainly been worth the wait. I know that there was a lot of people sort of saying beforehand that, what's going on if we signed another Croc, etc. Definitely not the case. No, I think you're seeing that now, and I think that he's very unfortunate that I think that with the sort of personnel around, as I say, I know that we've made quite a lot about this, but when you look at the likes that could be potentially playing with Ewan Murray or Fordyce, I think you couldn't ask for if you've got someone deputising as a centre back, I don't think there's a better centre half in the league that you can put them next to talk them through a game than Paul Hanlon, and that goes for both Liam Dick and Ross Matthews in that instance. So yeah. We move on. Latter stages of the first half, Leslie. Dylan Easton dribbles into the box and then Howley pulls him down. Now, it was one of those ones that starts on the outside and then by the time Dylan Easton gets into the box, it's gradually becoming more and more clear what's happening. Did you think it was a penalty? What was your take on it? Ayr United TV, to give them a bit of praise, they were well aware they felt that they got away with one there. So would you agree with that assessment, seeing it back?
Watched it back this morning. I'm not entirely convinced. Although,
get off
to be
my
honest,
podcast, Leslie. Get off the podcast.
to be honest, yeah, we need. I'm doing the Chris Sutton part here. That was no way. That was a penalty. That would never be a penalty. No. But I think I'm generally very harsh when it comes to penalties. You have to actually violently assault somebody or press the R1 button to get a penalty in my universe. I think I would have been unhappy if it had been given against us. However, I can definitely see the logic in why you might say that was a penalty. It's one of those fouls that starts outside the box and carries on into the box, and over he goes. The fact that the Ayr TV guys thought it was a penalty is quite telling. I would, as I say though, I would file it for me, and this is purely where I come from, under you'd be raging if it was given against you. But though I haven't said that, we've not had the rubber green with penalties, but I would file it for me under seen them given, but I'd be raging if it was against us.
Did you see the point just there? There seemed to be confusion, and I think, well, I was certainly confused, but it doesn't take a lot. The referee, when he gave the free kick, I thought he was going to give it the other way, and then he brings his yellow card out. Now, I don't know if it's the same incident.
Are you talking about this game? Are you talking about the Sean Byrne incident? Or is it deja vu here?
I'm talking about he brought his yellow card out, right? And it looked like he booked Easton. And then he's standing like this, going... So he obviously didn't book Easton. And then it looked like he booked the 25, the big guy that looked like he'd square shoulders. It looked like they booked him.
Yeah.
But he's not recorded anywhere. You look at after the game, he's not recorded receiving a booking.
Yeah.
So I thought the referee had turned around and gone, Easton's died, yellow card. Then he's cancelled at the yellow card. We've got the free kick. And then he honestly looked like he was going to book 25. So
you're not the only one that was struggling to keep track, because at one point during the coverage, and I get it's a tough job to keep track on these things when I've been notoriously bad for that myself, particularly given that I am specky, is that during the game, the Ayr United TV, they were incensed because Ross Matthews put in a tackle and got a book in, and the guys, he's been booked already, but then it was like the co-commentator's like, actually it was someone else, and it's like, calm down. But that raises another point. Dylan Easton, or not Dylan Easton, the ball works its way down the wing, and Big Kev rushes out to clear it out the pitch. And they got particularly incensed by the fact that Marco Roos goes for the ball. Big Kev's blootered it into the terracing, and it's cannoned right back off one of the steps into play. And then they were accusing him of chucking a ball back onto the pitch. So apparently Big Kev's in control of gravity now. Who would have known it? But aye. Speaking of Big Kev, Callum, there was a big sort of save towards the end of the half where he got down low to his sort of near post, and then you've got Josh Mullen coming off. So I know that you said that you weren't at the game, but do you think that's a bit of a redemption arc for Kev, sort of the performance that he seemed to put in based on what you've seen?
Absolutely, yeah. There's some really, really good saves in there. It didn't really make any of those glaring errors that he has done in some recent games. So,
I mean, he did have one where he...
I did see one where that he's put into the group chat where he did a short pass that went straight to an Ayr player, which, I mean, he got away with this time. But
Sean Byrne was going mental there, by the way. Sean Byrne was going absolutely do
I
early.
can't blame him. Can't blame him in the slightest. But yeah, I think other than that though, the last real notable chance for Rovers was Josh Mullen had a shot that flashed wide of the post, so that brought us into half time. So then, yeah, Graham, just what were your thoughts going in at half time? Did you think that Ayr had obviously grown a bit back into the game? Were you quite impressed by Neil Collins and his Collins ball that he brought to the table?
Oh, he was the Messiah, wasn't he? He was amazing.
100%.
Just what a guy. See, getting rid of that brown jumper has certainly worked for him. Yeah. Ditched the brown jumper, became the Messiah. Piece of piss. Let's roll on to the next round of the cup. This is easy.
There was no bubbles to be burst.
Bubbles bursting.
Well, we'll get on to the second half now, because unfortunately it was very much a game of two halves, and it does need covering. So, Leslie, after your antics earlier on, I'm skipping you for the penalty question. Callum, the ball obviously makes its way into the box. There's an initial claim, one that goes off Liam Dick, which Ayr don't get given, but then the ball comes back in, and Ross Matthews. It basically it's from my point of view, I was of the opinion that his hand was in a natural position. But yeah, I just want to get your take on the penalty, and is it something that's quite frustrating given the penalty that we didn't get against Livingston last week towards the tail end of the game when we were chasing that match? Is it quite frustrating that there's these inconsistencies, or do you think it's something that's just got to be treated on a game by game basis?
It is very frustrating with the inconsistencies, because the one with the Livingston one, it was like the boy's arm was like way out and it comes off his hand, and that doesn't get given. But then with the one with Ross Matthews, it's like he's jumping up and he's turning, but it's like his arm's like that, so like coming across his chest, but it's like still up against it. So it's like if you remove the hand, it's going to come off of his chest. But is it really a natural position? Because it's like the whole argument is like the whole like sort of there's like the silhouette argument where it's like, oh, his arm's like up against the side of his body or whatever. So it's really harsh. It's like it doesn't help that there's this confusion where I think England has something different, and you'll have people referring to that, but because it's different from up here, it's just a complete mess. The handball rule, really, but it's like looking at the replays, it is quite harsh, but it's like right in front of the referee, and it's like really easy to see that it has just come off of his arm. It's like you're not going to get the easier decision as a referee.
To add a bit of I don't know, parity into the sort of question here, Graham, you said before we were speaking sort of just before we came live that you sort of had your own take on it. Yeah, if you just want to give us your thoughts on it.
I thought the one that hit Liam Dick was more of a penalty, and I think essentially the ball's going in, it's hit Liam Dick off the arm, it's then come out, and I think within about 30 seconds it's hit somebody else's arm, and I think if the referees maybe stood there and went, that's not a penalty, oh well, maybe it was, oh it's happened again, it's a penalty. Now I think the only saving grace for us is if that had happened last year, Ross Matthews would have got booked. Now, so there has been a change in the law, or the interpretation of the law. Ewan Murray turned his back against Partick Thistle in the playoff, and he got booked, as well as losing the free kick. So I think the law's not perfect. I think there is a lot of interpretation down to it. But I think in that instance, okay, it was a penalty, but at least we didn't get the boy booked and sent off.
Yeah, I think again, I think it's very easy to be aggrieved about these types of situations, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you're good enough, then you're going to win the game regardless of sort of penalty decisions one way or another. And also as well, we've had penalties decisions last season. I always look back to the one that we got against Morton that was quite clearly not a penalty in the first game at Starks that we had, and their fans were apoplectic with rage about it. These things come and go, so you've just got to have a bit of a level head about them and can't get too upset and count them. So Leslie, we made the change going towards sort of the just after the hour mark, where we changed it towards being more of a back five. Dylan Easton and Lewis Gibson both came off, and they were replaced by Sam Stanton and Kieran Freeman. Were you quite happy to see the change at that point, given that Ayr seemed to be very much in the ascendancy after their goal winding the sails?
In terms of the change, it kind of seemed like almost the only change we could really make in that situation. So if you look at the bench that we had, you've got Keaton Freeman, who, unless I'm missing somebody, was the only defensive player that we had on the bench. You've then got Sam Stanton, who was probably the only midfielder who could, who's got the experience to be able to kind of sit a bit deeper. And then we've got Connolly, Vaughan, and Montague, Nicholson as well. So really, if you were actually wanting to try and manage a game and see out a lead, those were really the only substitutions that we could have made. And yeah, I mean, I think they seem to be all right. We've talked a bit before about Keaton Freeman on the pod. For what it's worth, I think once he's had a few games under his belt with a stable lineup, I think he'll be absolutely fine. And I think you'll, like when Ross Millen joined, I think you'll have one of these situations where the sum becomes greater than its parts. So I don't have any concerns with him. But I think, yeah, in terms of the actual subs themselves, they were realistically the changes you would make and the changes you would expect to make if you were trying to manage a game. I'm just going to go back to the penalty, though. And I'm not going to kind of debate the decision, but just a couple of points. One is Kev faced Dowds a fortnight ago, and Dowds has put the ball, and again, this is something Blair had put in the chat, I think Dowds has put the ball the same way he went last week, the week before. It shouldn't be difficult to remember that, or do a Jordan Pickford thing and have something on your water bottle or whatever, and go that way. But having said that, the save he made a minute before was excellent. And it's a shame that the penalty and all the stuff that happened around it detracts from the fact that Kev made a fabulous save just before that. But no, just to go back and answer your question, yep, subs, I don't know what other subs we could have made, and I was happy enough with them.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Just to go back to Keaton Freeman, I thought he was really good when he came on. I thought that he was very aggressive in terms of his play, balls down the wing, and looking to get the play built up. So yeah, it was really good to see him back in the team. So yeah, and then we reached the 68th minute mark, Graham, and yeah, Jay Henderson slips the ball out wide to Dylan Wattret, in a gap really between Liam Dick and Lewis Stevenson, two players that we've been more than glowing in our praise of on this podcast. The ball then gets cut back, and it's that man again, Anton Dowds, who slops home. Just your thoughts on the goal, and if you just talk us through where you were at that point.
I think that the biggest thing for me is when Ayr do that, the amount of bodies they get in the box. We played some lovely stuff, right? First half, probably early second half, I think it was again on the left-hand side. We're playing some good stuff. We were cutting into the box, but we never had the bodies in there. Ayr seemed to just go hell for leather, and I think they did that anyway because they were 2-0 down. They didn't do the playing out for the back. It went boom right on top of Ross Matthews. Let's go. Let's see what happens for a lot of the game. And I think just one pass, they've taken two guys out, cross in the middle, bang, goal, and there was bodies in the box, and we're nowhere, absolutely nowhere. It was the same the first game against Ayr United. They just seem to get so many bodies in the box that someone's going to fall for somebody and they're going to put it away.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think when you play with that three at the back, you've always got that space in behind the wing back. And they used it. They used it very, very well, very effective.
Yeah, they used it just to the same effect a few moments later, because no sooner had we kicked right back off than Liam Dick unfortunately misplaced a pass straight back to Henderson. He fed in Dowds, who then slipped in Ben Dempsey. Again, same carbon copy of a goal. Callum, if you just, what were your thoughts at that point, seeing that one hit the back of the net as George Oakley found the target?
Fuck's sake, Rovers. Is it just why? Just what? Why is it that 2-0 is just a cursed scoreline for us? I believe it's like we're probably going to go on to stats about this, but it's just why can we never do anything nice and simple? Why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah, I think it was a real tough one to take. Ayr had, to be fair to them, Ayr had done really well since the beginning of the second half. And I know it's a point that we always sort of extol on this podcast. there's two teams playing football and both want to win. You can't just have it all your own way, unfortunately. And they obviously, I think that for all Graham, you've sort of said about them sort of using their bigger lads up top. I think you've also got to take that point, very, very valid point, that they are getting the bodies in the box and they're exploiting the space behind the full-backs there. Leslie, do you think it had maybe been a bit different if we had maybe the experience of the people like, say, for instance, you and Murray, Callum Fordyce and Scott Brown in there? Do you think that could have made a big difference for us? Because they're all really key players for us.
So you'll see I've switched my red pencil. And I'm a geographer by training, so we do things in coloured pencil. And red is when you colour in volcanoes and things like this. So as I said right at the top, I think the manager, to an extent, you can't blame him for much. But what's very clear is there's a job that he's got to do right away, and there's an absolutely vital issue that he has got to get on top of very quickly, and that is game management. So this has only happened once this season, so again, you've got to maybe give it a bit of time. But in the last 12 months, there are 9 games in which we've conceded 2 goals in the space of 10 minutes. 5 games, including yesterday, in which we've conceded 2 goals in the space of 5 minutes. I think you'll come on to this in a minute, Robbie, but we know that the Wraith Stats, who's an excellent human being on Twitter, has got some more depressing numbers from us. But there's a real issue with conceding goals from winning positions and conceding multiple goals quickly. And I don't think it's any accident that this tends to happen more when we're playing midfielders in defence. And again, I'm not going to single Ross Matthews out for criticism. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong individually. A lot of the times when this has happened, in the last season, Scott Brown didn't do anything wrong individually. Systemically, though, when we're changing shape, when we're making substitutions, when we're putting midfielders into defence because we don't have enough players fit or a big enough squad, this keeps happening, and it keeps happening time and time again. And it is absolutely something, as much as the physical side and the recruitment, that the new manager has got to get a handle on if we want to do anything this season.
Yeah, I think that it's completely understandable. I don't think you're going to find anyone that's going to argue against it. It's just a very tricky position at the moment, given that we are missing the likes of Fordyce and Murray in there. But yeah, I think the 3-5-2 will be a good formation when we've got the personnel, because you can see it suiting the likes of Stevenson and Freeman. Even the likes of Lewis Gibson did really well at wing back and won the ball up high at the pitch for our 2 goals. So if you see more of that, you're going to be very happy. But at the same time, you can't shy away from the sort of difficulties that we faced off the back of it yesterday. So yeah, to the end of the game there, Graham, we obviously have a couple of subs. We bring on Lewis Vaughan for Josh Mullen. Lewis Jameson comes off for Aidan Connolly. Did you think that just based off it that we had enough to change the game, or did you think that it was going to be always a difficult task, given that Ayr were sort of in the ascendant, saying that it felt like the game was slipping away from us?
No, I thought the game was up. 3-2, the game was up. You notice that Ayr actually made a change, and I think formation-wise, they seem to, especially their left-hand side, they put your man, Robbie, Roos, on the left-hand side, because he's like a whippet. Yeah, absolute whippet down there. And he causes no ends of trouble. Didn't do anything with it, but the fact that he was there and got the ball was causing us a wee bit of bother. Didn't feel we played like we played in the first half. I know Les talked about the substitution of Sam Stanton coming on. I wouldn't have put Sam Stanton out on the left. I would have put him in the midfield, and put him the one behind the front two, maybe, because that's where he plays, really.
Yeah.
And I know in Neil Collins' interview he says we're going to find a formation that fits the players. Sunday felt like we had the formation and the players were going to fit into it no matter what, rather than the other way around, which was what he said. Because as we know, Ross Matthews is in a centre half, and I'm going to have to put my hand up. I have been the greatest defender of Dicko, yeah. But those 5 minutes, well, not even 5 minutes, 2 minutes, weren't his greatest time. So I've got to, if I keep praising him when he's really good, I've got to put my hand up and say, come on, big man, you can do better.
Yeah, that's a moment for the ages for this podcast. People will be taking out their earphones and putting them back in their chargers to make sure that they're fully right.
No, down, big man. I'm not doing it again.
That's all right. That's fine. We'll let him away with a couple of errors there. It was just, very unfortunate. But again, you understand that these are part and parcel of the game, isn't it? That you're going to have good games and bad games for footballers. So yeah, Leslie, we're going to come back. So yeah, I've just titled this next bit "Transcending Stats." New manager, to a large degree, a new team, but the excellent race stats. I think the key hitting one that we all pointed out was that since the 2019-2020 season, the number of goals we've had when we're 2 or more behind has only been 16, but the number of goals when we've been 2 or more up was 63 that we've conceded. Just to give us a bit of a deep dive in terms of your statistical findings and where you're at with things.
I don't have much more to add in the way of stats, but I mean, it's the first health warning I think you've got to put whenever you see numbers like that is how do they compare to other teams? And I don't have those numbers to hand. So, I mean, if you find that other teams are broadly similar, that's one thing. But if you find we're radically different, which I think we might be, then that's telling you something. So, I mean, we were having a bit of a discussion earlier this morning, weren't we, around coffee break time on the WhatsApp, and something Duncan had put in, which I really struck me, and I think it's related to this, is squad size. So we've got 22 players and that's it. And Ayr, Partick, Livingston, so if you're looking at other teams in the division who are probably around or about where we'd hope to be and teams we'd see ourselves as hoping to be matching with, you've got about 26 to 29 players. So from the off, even without injuries, we're already down on bodies. Now, I'm not for a minute suggesting that we swap out the likes of Paul Hanlon and Lewis Stevenson for people like Sean McGinty and Akeem Rose. That's not where I'm going with this. But, you know, it was true last season as well, and it was definitely true the season before with Ian Murray, where the game management was a real issue. When you've got a small squad and when it's depleted even more with injuries, it really becomes hard to sustain the way you're playing for a full 90 minutes. It becomes hard to make changes and respond to things that the other team are doing, and you end up just making a rod for your own back. I mean, okay, maybe another situation, maybe you might have had Sam Stanton and Louis Vaughan being 100% fit, and that's the kind of game where you might put them on and ask for a bit more from them. But with the players that we had available, it's actually hard to see what we could have done towards the end. And as I say, I think the number of goals that we've conceded has been a symptom of having that small squad size. I mean, we talked about when everybody was fit. We talked about that tiger cage at the start of last season where guys were coming on, they were scoring goals, and we just didn't have that yesterday. So it's unfortunate. I think it's not surprising. It's symptomatic of the size of squad that we have.
Yeah, I think that it's a really fair observation that was made by Duncan about the squad size, and I do wonder if we are looking in terms of new signings, Callum. Just to get your thoughts on this, do you think when we're looking at new signings that because we've got a squad that we've got maybe not the biggest squad in terms of the league, both physically as well, do you think it's something that we need to maybe diversify in when we're looking in terms of our forward options, maybe getting a bit of a bigger forward in to sort of try and rustle some jimmies a la Greenock Morton last season?
Yeah, we very much have. It feels as though with the squad, it's a bit too one-dimensional with the players that we have. It's like they all fit one certain style. We don't really have someone who can come on and like have like a completely different style to change things up. It's like our two main strikers are Jack Hamilton and Callum Smith, who are very much alike for like. So having someone who's different to them, whether it be a tall target man like a less shit John Fredrickson or just like someone who's just rapid.
I'm going to stop you there, Callum. I've got a friend who's 6'9" who stays in Kinghorn. I'm pretty sure if we can get the ball up to his head, then he's going to be a better option than John Fredrickson.
Yeah, honestly, it's like there's something different because they're like very similar players. So if we have someone who can bring on that can change the dynamics of us going forward, or let's say someone at the back who's able to show things up, whether it's just someone physical at the back or just anything really, just something that doesn't fit the current mould as someone who's happy to sit on the bench, and if things aren't going to plan, then it's just chuck him on, because we
Aaron
don't seem
Reid,
to have a plan.
he's your man.
Yes, Aaron Reid has scored a goal this season. I've been vindicated. He scored a goal before Todorov. I know who my edge striker is.
Not Todorov anyway. What even's going on with Hackies anyway? So who cares? I think that to get back to the point at hand though, and I mean we've still got Jack Hamilton coming back up top, and I think he would add that extra dimension. Again, we've never really seen Jack Hamilton play as part of a front two. So even if we were using that 3-5-2, I'd be keen to see what he could offer in that position where he's got a strike partner, because we've never had that before with him. We've always tended to use him as sort of a sole forward, or maybe as with someone like Lewis Vaughan playing a little bit deeper. So yeah, keen to see how we can do with that. The last thing I really want to touch on from last Sunday was the post-match interview. Now, Neil Collins did say that he learned a lot in the second half, probably more than he did in the first half, about his team. And there was a bit of chat there about Ross Matthews having the attributes to play at centre-back. But I just wanted to get people's thoughts on that. We're all shaking our heads. I'm guessing that's not something that we're really going to be finding too palatable on this podcast.
No.
I think that's a
I think
fair
even a right back's a push. I think if we're going to use Ross Matthews as a right back, we need to get some sort of throw-in practice going. Yeah, because we're not the greatest at throw-ins, to be fair. 300 professional games, but the throw-ins are a bit poor. So we need to look at that, but definitely not a centre half. No way.
We're being bold in our criticism of the team tonight, lads. Particularly Graeme. Graeme's going to have Rovers players in his DMs asking questions now. No, I'm sure they'll take it all in good spirit if anyone did happen to listen to it.
We've not had a check come through from Bowerman.
Yeah, well,
I'm proving that the brainwashing didn't work.
I know, we'll go too far the other way. We'll get slaughtered for being just really, really cynical about Rafe Rover. And then we'll still get people complaining about the podcast. No, I'm just joking. Everyone's entitled to their viewpoints, some more than others. But yeah, let's go through a man of the match for this one. I know it's going to be a bit more of a difficult game to pick, but Callum, was there anyone? I know that you didn't get get a chance to see the full game, but was there anyone in particular that stood out from you from the highlights that had a particular impressive performance, or are you just going to?
Paul Hanlon looked really impressive at the back. Kev made a good few saves, and then there's Gibson. It's like playing probably out of position. Maybe never seen him play as a right wing back before, and putting in that sort of performance where from him having 2 tackles is leading to 2 goals. One that he gets a proper assist for, and then one where it is like, I think he passes it to Jameson, who gets a shot away. But it's like 2 goals coming from him playing as a defender is really impressive. So I would probably give it to him.
That's fine. The rest of us aren't picking a man of the match because we were fed up after that second half performance. Nah, I'm just kidding. Graeme, is there anyone for you that deserves a bit of praise coming out of that game, particularly from the first half?
I thought Callum Smith did a good job up front in his own. I thought he played really well. He's actually winning headers against was it Stanger at the back.
Mm-hmm.
He holds it up really, really well. He's actually seems to be really strong, holding the ball up on his feet and his back to goal. Causing these centre halves no end of problems. I thought he did a really good game. Surprisingly, we lost 3 goals, and I still thought Kev had a good game. Don't know what happened with the George Oakley incident after there was 2 balls in the park, too far away for me to see. So
that was hilarious, though. I was howling with laughter at not Rafe TV, their United stream about that one, because all of a sudden it just became this witch hunt, and you've got people slaughtering Kev on Twitter. Very funny. And he relishes that. We know that for a fact. So, aye.
But that save that Les talked about just before the penalty?
Yeah, it was.
He goes flying to his right hand side. Was outstanding, absolutely outstanding save.
I thought
he played really well.
One at the end of the first half as well, where he got down at his near post just to tip it away. It was really impressive as well. I thought it was for a game where he's conceded 3 goals, he can still hold his head up high because he had a lot of positives to take from that. Les, what about for you? Any man of the match candidates?
My man of the match would be Lewis Gibson. I think for having a hand in both goals, for trying to make stuff happen, for just being absolutely fearless down that right, my man of the match would absolutely be Lewis Gibson. I'll also put in another honourable mention as well for Lewis Jameson. Again, I thought he had a really good shift. He's got some great touches, the ball, again, the confidence to have a shot. What I'm really looking forward to when it does happen, if we get to see it, is Jack Hamilton and Lewis Jameson up front together, because I think that could be a terrific combination.
This is going to be the Oh No 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 podcast, wanting to get something, but it might not ever actually happen after our Rudden stroke Hamilton. I think that one tailed off quite a lot at the end of last season. But for me, I would actually go with Dylan Easton. I thought Dylan Easton was absolutely superb. And I think that it wasn't a coincidence that I get that he's not going to be able to play the full 90 minutes, but I think there was a real tail off in terms of how well the game was going for us after Easton went off, because he was causing all sorts of problems for them. Took his goal really well just to get it in the right place. If you actually look, his first touch kind of bobbles up, but he managed just to get it back under control and finish it. And again, just linked up really well with Lewis Stevenson, who was bombing down the left wing during the sort of first half. I do have to say as well, though, to give a bit of credit to United, I know that you'd sort of touched on it earlier on, that he'd had a lot of praise, but I was very impressed by Dylan Watritt as well. I think that he looks a really good prospect for Ayr. Wouldn't surprise me if he's the latest to see the move down south from them. So just to give credit where credit's due. So that'll do us for Sunday's game. Moving forward, we'll be back a bit earlier this week with a preview for the derby, given that it's going to be on the Friday night, so I would expect that to be on Wednesday. And also we'll have a look back at the Neil Collins and Andrew Barrowman Q&A that's scheduled for tomorrow evening. So thanks a lot for taking the time to listen, and we look forward to seeing you later on in the week. So bye for now.